What is up, everyone? Hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Get Unreal. It's Brant Not Brent here with another installment of my YouTube series where I'm recreating the island from Lost in Unreal Engine 5 from scratch, meaning I'm not using some procedurally generated island shape with mountains already made. I'm doing everything by hand and from the beginning. If you haven't already checked out parts 1 and 2 of this series, please do, so you can get caught up on how I created the shape of the island by using the landmass plugin, as well as install the Fluid Flux plugin to create an awesome ocean and water system. As you might have already noticed from the background, today we're going to be starting out in World Creator 2023. World Creator advertises itself as the world's first GPU-powered real-time terrain and landscape authoring tool and generator. Pretty cool stuff if you ask me. After seeing some of the demos of World Creator, I was blown away by the real-time rendering, and I knew it would be perfect for the island. I was especially impressed with the ability to work with creating the mountains and peaks based off an image or map. I think it plays very well with my ideas for recreating the island from Lost. And like everything else, if you can snag World Creator on sale, I would highly recommend it. So get your coffee or whatever it is that you might be drinking, and let's get into this program and see what we can make. The main thing I wanted to be able to do was import a map image and then sculpt over it. It was fairly easy figuring out how to do this by watching a couple tutorials. Basically, you just create a sculpt layer and then a stamp layer on top of that where you import the map image onto the color map. Then on the sculpt layer, you can start creating your mountains. Once you're in edit mode, you have the choice of using brush tools or grid tools. I found that using the grid tools gives you way more precision for this type of task. Just take a look at how I trace over the rim of the crater and raise it to my desired elevation. You can widen out or narrow your selection by dragging your mouse up and down. You can already make a custom terrain look amazing so quickly in World Creator with just a few clicks of your mouse. As far as I know, this feature isn't possible in Unreal Engine 5. Yes, of course you can sculpt a mountain with a brush tool, but I found it really difficult to trace over a map like I can here. Adding the fingers to the mountains, I think that's what they're called, just works so easily here. The real-time rendering with lighting and shadows is just an added bonus to really give you a sense of realism as you're sculpting. Keep in mind, I'll always be able to modify this later in Unreal Engine if I'm not happy with some of the features, so nothing is set in stone, no pun intended. I guess this would be a good time to give you guys a little update on where I'm at with my rewatch of the show. I don't have as much time to binge it like I want to right now, but I just finished season 1 episode 10, which is titled Raised by Another. The episode focuses on Claire's backstory, but it's one of my favorites of season 1 for a few reasons. First off, the psychic Claire goes to see knows about the plane crash. He sets her up on flight 815 to supposedly give up her baby in Los Angeles, but it's all just a ruse to get her on the plane so it can crash. If you read further into this, this would mean that he was somehow communicating with the island in order to get Claire's baby to the others. Now, I don't recall exactly what's going on, but I remember it being something to do with this. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll definitely let you know when I find out. But the other thing I really like about this episode is that it's the first time we're introduced to one of the others, being Ethan. He's one of the creepier characters on the show, and this is the first time we really start getting a sense of that the survivors of Flight A15 aren't alone on the island. Wow. Okay, so back to the program. Where were we? I'm just going back now to fix up all the little areas that I wasn't happy with on the first go through. World Creator makes it very easy to go back and make minor tweaks like this. Even if something gets messed up here, I will always be able to go back and fix it later on in Unreal Engine. I just want to do the best job I can here so it doesn't create any bigger problems later down the line. Another thing I really love about World Creator is the ability to add effects onto your terrain once you're finished with the sculpting. Here I added rigid flows as the last step to give it an overall realistic feel. I know it's not going to be perfect, but also remember that we'll be adding vegetation and rocky-like textures to these mountains, so you won't be able to see this type of detail underneath. Alright, now let's take this over to Unreal Engine. Now to make this be able to successfully import in Unreal Engine 5, you need to choose RAW and then make sure you rename the file type to R16. Don't ask me why, that's just what you gotta do. So when importing into Unreal, try to keep your component size down so everything doesn't turn into a mess. I found that the higher the component size, the more slowly everything is gonna run. Once you have the terrain imported correctly, you're gonna want to raise it up to the level of your existing landscape. That's right, we now have 2 landscapes. Landscape number 1 is the existing landscape we created out of the landmass plugin to shape the island, and landscape number 2 is the new terrain with the mountains. So now I'm just going through and sculpting down the landscape number 2 so it doesn't overlap with landscape number 1. You have a lot of room for error here, so you can use a pretty big size brush. This step is important if you want to be able to see the depth of the ocean. And that's about it for part 3 of recreating the island from Lost in Unreal Engine 5. I'm really liking the mountains we created in World Creator 2023, and I think this makes an awesome addition to the island. It's definitely much nicer and easier than sculpting right out of Unreal. Remember, we can always go back and make some changes with the sculpting tools inside of Unreal Engine as well, so we're not stuck with this as the final shape if we see something we're not happy with. So let's give it a quick play and see what this looks like in game. Yeah, this is great. This is gonna work really well. There might be a couple peaks and stuff that we can adjust later, some little parts of the mountains that we can change, but this is going to be really good. Loving it. All right, everyone, and that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and please join me for the next video where I start to texture the terrain and mountains. Things are going to start looking really nice really quickly. Have a good one, everybody, and also please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't. See you on the next episode of Let's Get Unreal.